Hey guys, it's Bobby again from B. McCarthy Healing Hearts Ministry, and I am here in video 3 to continue talking about trauma and what that does to the body, as well as coming from a perspective of a Christian woman. How does that either bring me to the feet of Jesus or take me away from the feet of Jesus? So in video 1 and 2, I kind of shared with you a little bit about my testimony and the fact that I'm now starting year 5 of this chronic trauma event related to my son, who has developed psychosis of unknown origin, or at times they say schizophrenia, but most of the time they say psychosis of unknown origin. Again, that is a condition of the brain where he sees things, hears things, smells things sometimes that are not there. He believes very unreal things, but to him they are very real. They are called delusions. They're fixed. You cannot convince him otherwise. And he also is very paranoid. So anything going on around him, whether it's in the news, whether it's in politics, local history or local news, family history, it's all kind of contorted into this paranoid information that makes him think about things differently. It's very complex. Again, it's underneath this window or umbrella of schizophrenia that we don't have a ton of research on. We don't really know exactly what causes it. There are theories of imbalances of cortisol, serotonin, dopamine, different neurotransmitters. There are antipsychotic medications that help with certain features of this, but doesn't take it away. He currently is not on medication, so he's not any better. It's been 4 years of this state. Again, as a Christian woman and mother, I've lost a relationship with who I knew to be my son. This began when he was 33 years old, an established father, had a job, a car, a home, a life, that he no longer has any of that. So he's lost everything. It's tragic. It's very, very tragic. I cannot speak for him. He doesn't think it's tragic. He doesn't understand how tragic it is. He sees things through a very different lens. He thinks he's sent from God as a messenger. He has a lot of different theories as to, why he thinks differently and why he sees things differently now. It's really hard to communicate with him. So it's been this really horrendous, awful, life-changing, traumatic event for him and for me and for our family. But I want to just go back, recap. Video 2, I kind of talked about this, what happens in trauma, the fight or flight system that gets activated along with the endocrine system and the immune system, which causes our body to get sick if we get stuck there. So I wanted to kind of go back and talk about the phases of trauma or the stages of trauma. So again, in video 2, we talked about there's the fact of trauma, the fact of whatever event is happening that is causing trauma for you. And then there's the impact of the trauma. How is that affecting you personally? How is it causing your body to react? Mind, body, spirit, environment kind of stuff. Like, again, it activates your fight or flight, but it does all kinds of other things, like causes inability to sleep. It causes anxiety, depression, sadness, obviously. It causes headaches, stomach aches, bowel irregularity, inability to concentrate, probably inability to work or to concentrate on other things that are going on in your life. There's acute trauma, which happens suddenly, tragically, all of a sudden without your understanding. And then there's this chronic kind of trauma, which is what we're in right now, of we had this acute impact, December 24th, 2020, and it kind of has just continued along into this now 5th year beginning. So the first stage of trauma after this kind of like impact that's occurring. Like all of this is going on in your body. The first kind of stage is this sense of loss. What is it that the trauma has caused you to lose? Is it your dignity, your self-esteem? Is it a relationship? Is it your home? I mean, think about California and all the devastating fires and the displacement of all of these people, loss of life. It's this sudden loss of something that you can't get back, and you know you can't get it back, and it's changed and it's different and it's agonizing. It's shock. It's denial, right? You don't understand what's happening. You cannot believe it. This cannot be true. Like I was saying to God, Lord, I'm your daughter. I'm the daughter of the Most High God. How is this happening? I raised this boy, this man boy, from the time he could walk to understand who you were, Lord. He believed in you, Jesus. But he ended up, falling away from that at some point in his adult life, unbeknownst to me. He was doing some witchcraft and tarot cards and looking into Jewish mysticism, which led him on this whole journey, taking him away from God, away from Jesus. And there's consequences for that. And, he's lost his mind. The world wants to call it schizophrenia, psychosis. I, as a nurse, I throw my hat in that ring as well. But I also can tell you from firsthand experience with this, that this feels demonic. I've had encounters with the demon realm since this has happened. I'll get into more of that in a different video because that's a very different phase of this. But as a Christian who believes in the Bible, who believes in demon possession, who believes in the devil, who believes in good and evil, who believes in Jesus, the fall, salvation, hell, heaven, I believe in demon possession. And I'm going to tell you that at times when my son is talking to me, it feels like a demon is talking to me. And that is downright frightening. And it's horrifying. So there, the shock, the denial, right? The second phase is anger. And believe me, I've been angry. I've been angry throughout the whole thing. I've been in shock the whole time. I've been in denial the whole time. I'm out of denial now. I'm kind of like, in this place of settling, kind of like looking at what's new. How can I find a new normal? But the second stage is anger, and with that comes fear, comes panic. Like, oh my God, is this going to be forever? This cannot be forever, Lord, please. What are the signs and symptoms around you? Any sign of stopping? Confusion, disorientation, hypervigilance starts here. Like if you're still in this trauma, you are looking for every sign and symptom of trouble, any sign or symptom of healing. You're just on high alert all the time. And again, this causes your sympathetic nervous system to be elevated, so your fight or flight system is up, high, blood pressure up, pulse up, not good for you. I developed broken heart syndrome because of that. I talked about that just a little bit. I did put up an information flip book for you that's pinned at the top of my B. McCarthy Healing Hearts Ministry page. There's a flip book now on trauma. There's a flip book on schizophrenia, and there's a flip book on broken heart syndrome. So because of the trauma and the loss and the emotional impact that happened to me related to the loss of my son throughout this, in the sixth or seventh month of this, I did develop broken heart syndrome. I ended up in the emergency room a second time, thinking I was having a heart attack. And during that workup, I was told that I most likely had broken heart syndrome. And then when all the labs came back the next day, I got a call from the ER doctor asking me to follow up with my primary because I indeed had markers of broken heart syndrome and I needed a couple of tests to follow up. In a long story short, that means I have some heart damage, some actual physical heart damage related to the trauma that I experienced during this with my son. So the third phase is called something that's called shopping for pain. And I'm going to talk about that in the next video. But to continue on with the impact of the trauma, We went through phases 1 through 2, really. We'll go through phases 3 next time in a little bit more detail, because I think we all do this naturally as we shop for pain. It's something like you constantly are looking at your ex's Facebook page because you want to know what's going on. Even though it kills you, you continue to look because you just can't look away. That's called shopping for pain. And we're going to talk about how that happened with me next time. So because of Dominic's, I don't really want to say his name. Because of my son's psychosis, he thought that he was, or he still does sometimes, think that he is on a mission from God. And when there was this one particular day in April, actually it was April 15th, 2021, when I had this phone call from him that was so upsetting. This is when I really did feel like, my God, this is in the demon realm. This is spiritual warfare. He was telling me things like in this voice that was not his. He was angry. He was lashing out at me. He thought my husband and I, his father and I, were selling his twins to sex trafficking. He thought his grandparents, of all people, were running a sex ring and were pedophiles. He thought the people in the town were hoarding children in basements. Anyone he ever worked for, he was terrorizing, because he thought they were doing like selling drugs or selling children. He really believed this, and he's acting on these delusions. But in this phone call, as a Christian mother, think of this from the perspective of he's my son. I'm a Christian mom. He knows this about me, right? And he's saying to me things in a voice that's not his, calling me an enemy of God, saying that you are not saved. God does not know you. The devil owns you. You are going to hell. You are not forgiven for your sins of the past. Like, these things were pouring out of him in this most heinous voice, and the anger behind it was palpable. I felt like it was coming through the phone. And I hung up, and I threw the phone, actually, and I screamed. I was alone in my house, and I screamed out to God, like, Lord, what on earth is happening here? This cannot be true. But there was a sliver of doubt that started creeping into my mind. Am I really saved? Could it be true? Could I not be forgiven for some of the sins I've done? I had never thought this before. Like, I know I'm forgiven. I know I am. But in that moment, Satan used my son to undermine my faith, or try to undermine my faith. And as I cried out to God, I heard him in my spirit tell me, turn on the worship music. Turn on the worship music now. Now, I listened to something called Air One. I can't even think of what this like 93.9 or something like that. I don't really know the station off the top of my head, but I did not want to worship. I was like caught in this like miserable agony of fear, sadness, trauma. I was crying. I was like so confused and upset. I felt like I had been attacked by Satan, but I undeniably felt God tell me, turn on the worship music. And when I did, I'm going to tell you that I can't even believe what happened. 5 consecutive songs came on that dispelled everything my son had just said to me, or the devil had just said to me, it felt like. And those songs were Amazing Grace by Carrie Underwood that day, The Battle Belongs to You by Phil Wickham, I Can Only Imagine by Mercy Me, Graves into Gardens by Brandon Lake, and I'm Not Who I Used to Be by Brandon Heath. Now, I'm going to tell you that reduced me to a puddle of mush. I was crying out to Jesus, like, thank you, 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 Jesus, for seeing me, Like, I felt like the devil was so in control in that moment that he was attacking me through my son. It was horrible, but I can tell you, I can promise you that if you are a child of God and you cry out to him in your lowest moments, he answers you. He does. Like in video 2, I said, you know, in the first 4 months, I didn't hear from God. I didn't hear him. I didn't feel him. But when this happened, and I listened, I obeyed, I turned on that worship music even when I didn't want to. And I, in 5 consecutive songs, was told by God that the devil is a liar, that you are saved, you are mine, I am your God. And it was the best gift. And I can tell you that time after time after time of a confrontation from my son with what felt like the devil, God replied. From that point forward, God replied every single time. And I'm going to share that with you in each video. So, you know, 16 minutes has gone by already. My goodness. I'm going to stop so that I can upload this to Facebook, and I hope that it blesses you in some way. Please contact me if you have any questions. Look at my free flip books for information on schizophrenia, trauma, and broken heart syndrome. And I hope you have a blessed day.